Welcome back to Mosaic. I'm Rabbi Eric Weiss, and I'm honored to be your host. We're in the middle of a wonderful conversation within the context of June as LGBTQ Pride Month and LGBTQ life in the Jewish community. Welcome back, Maxine, and we'd like to introduce you to Jean Goldstein-Plesser, who is the Community Program Manager for Keshet Bay Area. Welcome, Jean.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here.
So what is Keshet? Why don't we jump in and start there?
Sure. So Keshet is an organization based in Boston, but that does national work all around the country. We were founded 20 years ago in a very different environment. And at the time, it was very hard for people who were LGBTQ to feel like they could live fully integrated Jewish lives, and that when they entered Jewish spaces, they had to leave their queer identity, their LGBTQ identity at the door. And so we were founded with the mission of trying to change that and trying to create a world where people could be queer and Jewish at the same time. And so we've spent the last 20 years working across the country helping to make Jewish institutions more inclusive and accepting of LGBTQ people.
Wonderful. And we should say Keshet in Hebrew means rainbow, and it's
Yes.
a deliberate reference point from a faith-based perspective to the Bible story of Noah and seeing the rainbow after the flood, which in a Jewish perspective is considered to be the first sign of covenant.
Yes, and in addition to meaning rainbow, it also means bow, as in a bow and arrow. And so there's also some idea of action and moving forward in the word.
So what is your experience of the Jewish community from your perspective?
Sure. So I'm actually a second-generation gay. My parents are lesbians. I grew up in North Carolina, and I grew up going to a synagogue that was part of the conservative movement. And we, for the most part, had very few issues. We were fully accepted by our congregation. There were always a few awkward conversations, a few people who were surprised or didn't know how to react. But I never felt discrimination or felt unwelcome. But sort of speaking to what Rabbi Rubin was saying previously, there still are corners where people are less tolerant and less accepting and less able to comprehend. And there was an Orthodox minyan that met, an Orthodox prayer gathering that met on the lower level of our synagogue every week. And because it was a much smaller community, they would seek out people to join them to create the 10 people that you need to have a prayer service. And sometimes they would come recruiting upstairs. And one time I joined them, I was brought down there, and they wouldn't call me up as the son of two women. They insisted on calling me up as the son of Abraham, which is sort of what you do generically when you don't know who somebody's parents are, or when they're adopted and you don't know who their parents are. And I remember that moment feeling, wow, like this is not something I'm comfortable with. They're not accepting me and my family for who we really are. And I remember feeling a distance to Judaism at that point that I hadn't felt before, and I never went back downstairs.
So Maxine and Eugene, and Jean, based on this sort of experience, where are the places that we still need to be better, to explore and get better in our Jewish community?
Well, as a mother of twin daughters who went to a Jewish day school, we were the first two-mommy family to go to this Jewish day school in Marin Brandeis. And I'll never forget when the kids were in first grade, we got a call from a parent who said, "What do you mean you're a two-mommy family?" Well, yes, hi, we're a two-mommy family. Oh, yeah, we know your son. He's in our daughter's class. Well, my son wants to know how come he's not having two mothers as well. You've made it very difficult for me. And I said, well, I guess you're unlucky. And that was the conversation, which it's so nice to hear that what a trailblazer your parents were.
Yeah.
So I think it's, there's a lot of work still to do. As much as we accept and try, there's always the nice people who don't say anything in front of us, but they'll always be behind closed doors.
And, we talked earlier about the kind of intersectionality, which is a word that typically comes out of the social justice arena around race, but has been used more globally for other kinds of integration of identities. So in this particular context, Jewish and LGBTQ, which is also compounded by Jews of color in our community as well. So I'm wondering in that context, Are there ways in which you feel like it's not exactly run parallel? Some places there's more Jewish advancement, sometimes there's more LGBTQ advancement. They're not always in sync with one another. How do you sort of work with that issue within the context of our Jewish community, either personally or professionally?
Well, I'll say a big part of the work that we're doing right now in the Bay Area is just letting the community know that we exist, that we're here, that there are people who share both of these identities, who are both Jewish and LGBTQ. And as Rabbi Rubin said in the previous segment, there are people out there who think that they are the only one, or they must be so rare. But as we've found, running community programs out here where we create spaces where people who are Jewish and LGBTQ can come together and meet each other and you know, compare their experiences and their shared identities, that they discover that there's in fact dozens, if not hundreds of people here in the Bay Area who share these combined backgrounds and really gain a lot by coming together and seeing that, you know, you're not alone, and that there are so many people who are out there who, you know, share these experiences and you can connect over them.
Jean, Maxine, we're going to take a quick break and come back to continue this conversation in just a moment here on Mosaic.